So very sadly, Triple H recently told us that he was retiring from the world of wrestling. Now, of course, eventually every single wrestler has to hang up their boots. This was doubly sad because, of course, he didn't want to do this. It came after his heart medical issue. That's why when it did all come out and he did that interview, well, I had some water in my eyes. However, what this does mean is that now we can turn our attentions to what he did do throughout his wrestling run. That's why I'm Simon from WhatCulture. Thank you for joining me. Please hit the subscribe button. And yes, I've broken my hand. Let's just ignore it. And here are the 10 best Triple H wrestling matches ever. Number 10 versus Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30. Now, if you want to come into my house and say, Simon, I think this should be higher on the list, I wouldn't argue with you. And really, this came at a time when a lot of the internet wrestling community was pointing at Triple H going, ha, you can't do the wrestling anymore. He went, oh yeah? Watch this. And in fact, this was even more exciting at WrestleMania 30 because Daniel Bryan was going to have to win this match in order to go on to the main event where he would finally have a shot at the WWE title. And again, of course, because everyone was looking at Hunter going, well, you'll never lose to him, there was this feeling in the air that we were all about to be trolled. As it turned out, though, this wasn't the case. These two had an absolute banger of a contest that you totally need to check out. And of course, it has interference from Stephanie McMahon. That's just par for the course in WWE. The point is, I liked it then, and I probably love it now. Number 9 versus Cactus Jack at No Way Out 2000. Now, when most people talk about this match, we focus on the fact that Mick Foley retired here until he decided to come back to professional wrestling and do lots and lots of matches. But this was the culmination of an amazing feud between Mankind/Cactus Jack and Triple H, because both those dudes brought the best out of each other. It also happened in Hell in a Cell, and if we're being honest with ourselves, there are 3 of these which most wrestling fans will talk about first. You have the original one in 1997, you have the one between Undertaker and Mankind in 1998, and then you get to this one, because it was damn good. This is an absolute bloodbath as well, with both guys just wanting to destroy each other, and that's why there's weapons, a bunch of the red stuff, and it ends with both of them on top of the Hell in a Cell, where Triple H back body dropped Cactus Jack through the damn thing, and when he hits the ring canvas, it basically exploded. And you get some negative Nancy's out there who go like, oh man, well they clearly gimmicked this to begin with. Yes. Do you not understand what professional wrestling is? Did you want Mankind, Mick Foley, Cactus Jack to actually take that fall? Of course you didn't. That would be flubbing stupid. But once again, this is great. Number 8 versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 28. Never forget that The Undertaker and Triple H have actually fought 3 times at WrestleMania. You have this one, you have the one at WrestleMania 29, and you have that one at WrestleMania 17, which nobody ever talks about. And if you believe the rumor mill, we only got that because about a week beforehand, Vince McMahon said, oh, silly bean, I forgot to put him in a match. It's really the story here that makes it work so well, because of course in the 2 previous WrestleManias, Shawn Michaels had tried to defeat the Dead Man and he couldn't, so now his best friend was going to give it a go. But even the Heartbreak Kid was saying to Triple H, I've weighed up the situation, pal, and I don't think you can do it. This then gets even deeper when you get to the night itself, because the narrative is that Triple H beat the holy hell out of The Undertaker, but he still couldn't defeat him, even though the game is able to walk away, whereas the Phenom is all wibbly wobbly. So there's a bunch of drama, there's a bunch of desperation, and I often see people poo-pooing over this. Well, you won't do it up here in my house. This is a good match. Number 7 versus The Rock at Backlash 2000. Now really this should have been the match at WrestleMania, but for some reason we had to do Triple H versus The Rock versus The Big Show versus Mankind, Cactus Jack, Mick Foley, whatever the hell you want to call him. And to this day, I don't really know why. You also get a ton of stuff happening here because Mr. McMahon had turned his back on The Rock in order to team up with Triple H and D-Generation X, so the odds were stacked against the Great One. And we as fans were all panicking because they're like, oh man, we want The Rock to win, but it didn't look like he was going to. This also ties in directly into the match because it's shenanigans central, but I'm all good with that because do you know what happens at the end? Stone Cold Steve Austin returns, he gets the biggest pop, it will make you feel all warm and fuzzy in your tum-tum, he attacks Triple H, that allows The Rock to become the champion, and it's just fun, and it's just good times, and dare I say it, it's sports entertainment done right.
Number 6 versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 28.
Which ties into what we have just been talking about, and I tell you, I said it back then and I will say it now, this one's an absolute classic. I mean, not only do you get the whole end of an era stuff, which wasn't end of an era at all, because all these guys would continue on fighting as and when made sense, they do it in a Hell in a Cell, and it has that spot when Shawn Michaels is a special guest referee. He hits The Undertaker with sweet chin music. Triple H then follows out with a pedigree, and until Brock Lesnar would actually defeat this at WrestleMania 30, it was the closest we ever came to ending Taker's streak. They also absolutely brutalize each other, and if you haven't seen this, make sure you watch it and then Google their backs or how their backs look after the fact. It is pretty damn disgusting. Really though, what I think this achieves is that at the end of it all, you look at all of those three guys and you think, you know what? You are some of the best to ever do it. And I stand by that fact. Number 5 versus Stone Cold Steve Austin at No Way Out 2001. So yes, this match came about after Rikishi did it for The Rock, but then actually Rikishi had done it for Triple H. It's all very confusing. And it got us to Stone Cold versus Triple H in the 3 Stages of Hell match. And if you're wondering why we haven't had that many other 3 Stages of Hell match, it's because, at least I think, this one was so well done, nobody could come up with any ideas to top it. It also meant you got to see a straight wrestling match, a no-holds-barred match, and a cage match, and WWE just played and circumvented all your expectations here, and while the finish is a little bit loopy-goofy, I really like it. Because essentially, both guys have kicked each other's ass so bad, they fall onto the floor, but luckily for Triple H, he just so happened to fall on top of Austin, and he scores the 1, 2, 3, but this shouldn't have really counted. I mean, there was no force behind it at all. It worked perfectly though, because coming out the other side, Stone Cold Steve Austin felt like a bigger star, and so did Triple H. And never forget, when you achieve that, you have done the magic of wrestling. Number 4 versus Cactus Jack at the Royal Rumble 2000. And of course, this all ties into that amazing feud that these two guys had. And once again, if you want to come up here in my house and say, Simon, this should have been number 1, well, it was damn close. And there are so many accolades you can throw at this as well. Is it one of the best singles matches we've ever seen at the Royal Rumble pay-per-view? Probably. Is it one of the best hardcore matches we've ever seen in WWE? Probably. And did it take Triple H and take him to the next level? I mean, there's no probably there, absolutely did. And this is what Mick Foley intended to do as well. He has said it in so many interviews, so you just have to give them a round of applause as best you can, because they went in with an idea and flub me did they execute it. You also need to brace yourself if you are about to watch this for the first time, because when we get to all that barbed wire and all that thumbtacks and the blood starts flowing, well, it'll make you a little bit uncomfortable. The crowd are absolutely losing their minds from start to finish too, and this is yet another one that it may have happened 20 years ago, but it still holds up today. Number 3 versus Chris Jericho at Fully Loaded 2000. It shouldn't be too big of a surprise that a lot of these matches do come in the year 2000, because really, if you go back and survey the evidence, during that 12-month period, Triple H probably the best wrestler in the world. Here he was taking on Chris Jericho too, who had fallen into his massive trap, because not only was the game beating him up, but so was D-Generation X and Stephanie McMahon. Eventually we added a stipulation to this as well, because it was last man standing, and given that these two guys would face in the main event at WrestleMania 18, why the hell didn't we just repeat this? Because it rocks. And admittedly, for large portions of this, Hunter is beating up Chris Jericho, but before long they're throwing each other into tables, and you do see the game tap out to the walls of Jericho. But again, this is the last man standing match, so it doesn't count. Stephanie soon gets involved as well, as does Triple H's trusty sledgehammer that goes into both guys' heads. And Triple H only gets up here at the last second, so once again we have done our best to try and make Chris Jericho more of a star. I deliberately watched this before I did this list, and it is an unforgotten gem. No, wait, a forgotten gem. Excuse my brain. Number 2 versus Chris Benoit and Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 20. A match that is hard to talk about today for obvious reasons. If you just look at this for the wrestling or the pomp and circumstance surrounding it, this is a damn good triple threat match. And really what happened here is that Triple H and Shawn Michaels said, you know what, it is time to make Chris Benoit the World Heavyweight Champion, and we are going to do everything in order to make him feel like he deserves that accolade. And obviously Chris Benoit was a good wrestler himself, so when you all threw these things in a pot, the end result was magic. I personally can't sit down with this anymore for all the reasons we've already mentioned, but when you do get to the end of it and Triple H taps out to the crossface, well, they all did their job. Number 1 versus Shawn Michaels at SummerSlam 2002. They say a good wrestling story has to tap a little bit into reality, and my word did we do that here and then some. Because not only was it Shawn Michaels returning to the wrestling ring after like 4 or 5 years away, but he was going to do it against his former buddy Triple H, who had turned on him and essentially tried to kill him in a parking lot. All of this did mean, though, when we got to SummerSlam, everybody was like, oh, flub, what is Shawn Michaels going to do? I'm sure he's not going to take any risks. And instead, he was climbing up ladders, he was going through tables, he was wrestling like he thought he was never going to wrestle again, which at the time was the idea. Because they are buddies, though, you just have to imagine it made it even better still, and by the time Triple H was going for the pedigree, but Shawn Michaels reversed it into the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up / the backwards, everybody was losing their minds and going, that Heartbreak Kid, he knows what he's doing. Really though, when you break it right down, who else should have been in this position other than Triple H? Because he was the one guy that everybody knew would take Michaels to the levels that we all expected. So it's another round of applause, but I can't do it. But long live Triple H. Know of any other great Triple H wrestling matches that should have been in this list? Make sure you let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Then head over to WhatCulture.com, read yourself some articles much like this one. Make sure you follow us on social media at WhatCulture WWE, and I'm there at Simon316. And go and watch another video, probably about Triple H. My name is Simon from WhatCulture. Thank you for joining me as always. Make sure you have a lovely day, and I'll talk to you soon.